We are the infinite. We are the ground of being. And we're also embodiment. When we see that we're both, then the only path to sanity is through paradox. I'm both.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm both. And what has the goddess represented since the beginning of time? The ability to hold opposites.
Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to the Woo Curious podcast. Your map to the mystical, your key to the sacred, and your guide back home to yourself. I'm Eileen, a writer, a spiritual coach, energy healer, and slow living witch. This podcast is your invitation to explore a world where the mundane and the sacred intertwine. It's a haven for those ready to take the first steps into the realms of magic and mystery, providing a safe space for you to embark on your own enchanted journey towards healing and self-discovery. Here, I'll unveil the whispers of the mystical, the rituals often hidden in plain sight, and I'll engage in sacred conversation intended to stir your soul and lead you back into your power. I'm all about demystifying woo and witchcraft. So, whether you're a seasoned seeker or simply woo curious, I'm so delighted you've decided to join me on this journey. Let's make magic. Before we begin today's episode, I'd like to share some words with you from a Wheel of the Year participant. Stephanie writes, "Honoring the changing of the seasons with Eileen is one of my favorite rituals. The space she creates is sacred and deeply rooted in honoring the earth and the women gathered. She makes space for us to witness all that has transpired, good and bad. She calls out our highest vision and walks us through clearing the space we need to see our biggest dreams come true, one season at a time. Setting aside the time to sit in these circles is truly a gift to yourself. I can't wait for the next one." A gift to yourself. I love that framing because it's genuinely what these ceremonies are intended to be. 8 times a year, I open a circle for women to gather and mark the turning of the wheel. Imbolc, Bealtaine, Lunasa, Samhain, the solstices and the equinoxes. Each ceremony is a chance to pause, to reflect on what the season is asking of you, to release what no longer serves, and to vision forward with intention and support. You don't need any experience. You don't need to know anything about Celtic traditions or the Wheel of the Year itself. You just need to be willing to give yourself the gift of presence and to arrive with curiosity. Upcoming ceremony details are at myluminous-life.ca/wheel-of-the-year-ceremonies, and I truly hope to see you at the next one. Hello, Woo Crew, and welcome back to another episode of the Woo Curious podcast. I am your host, Eileen, and I am here today with a special guest, Cynthia Abulafia. Cynthia is an author, educator, and yoga therapist committed to giving language to the divine feminine and restoring the experience of embodiment as the heart of spiritual practice. A longtime student and teacher of non-duality, she guides people through Kundalini awakenings and spiritual crises with grounded tools rooted in embodiment, breath, and the context of sacred texts and traditions. Her debut book, Embodying the Goddess, released in January 2026, challenges the transcendence bias of patriarchal spirituality. I love this part. And offers a path of radical integration. Welcome to the show with Cynthia. It's so lovely to have you here.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that really goes to the heart of it.
Yeah, when I read that this morning, I was like, ooh, here's where we're going to dig in. But before we get sidetracked with that conversation, I want to start where I always start with my guests by asking a little bit about your journey with spirituality in your life. And that might be a long story or a short story, and how it impacts the work that you do today.
Well, I study the goddess traditions and the sacred texts associated with those traditions, the sacred texts of yoga and Tantra. But I didn't start there. I wasn't, somebody out there banging down the doors of the divine feminine. I didn't even frankly know there was such a thing when I started on my spiritual path. I came in, sometimes I even say I came in backwards,
Mm.
where I had a bunch of experiences first and I couldn't really make sense of them. And some of them were very powerful transcendent experiences. When I was 12, I had a transcendent experience that changed things pretty fundamentally for me. And I didn't see reflected in the religions around me what I had experienced. So I kind of created my own little philosophical map. I called my little religion One. Like as a child would.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had a really powerful Kundalini awakening in my early 20s, which launched me into what I sometimes call spiritual crisis, what other people sometimes call spiritual emergence.
Mm.
And parsing that out, piecing that together, riding those waves took me down very intense pathways. First into direct path non duality, and non duality being kind of a spiritual system. Some wouldn't even call it a spiritual system, but a perception of reality where we are one and the same with
Mm-hmm.
the divine and as the divine, not two. So we're not separated from, we're not two. And
Mm-hmm.
that was beautiful. But what I was seeing over and over again was you are not your thoughts, you are not your emotions, you are not your body, you are not your memories, you are not your perceptions. And on it goes. And you
Mm-hmm.
can only hear that for so many years before starting to wonder, that's nice. What about what I am? Because I've got these two babies, and I'm getting the feeling that you're telling me my body, thoughts, emotions, sensations, and perceptions are somehow subordinate
Mm-hmm.
to the stillness and the silence. And I've come to call that the stillness bias or the transcendence bias, where in our
Mm-hmm.
spiritual practices, we're so good at leaving, let it go spirituality, I call it. We're so good at climbing the ladder up and out into transcendence, but we're just not good at coming in. And that was my path. My path was crash landing over and over and over and over again into body, into form, and feeling how difficult and uncomfortable and challenging it can be when you go from an experience of being very, very big to an experience of being very, very small or
Mm-hmm.
limited or formed or like having to go to the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
And with a lot of work, I finally found these traditions, these goddess traditions that were adjacent to what I'd been studying all along. I'd been studying yoga, I'd been studying the sacred texts. I'm a yoga therapist. And the goddess traditions are there, but they are not so easy to access. They're only now being translated, they're only now being made accessible. But within those lineages and traditions, we have a wild and beautiful affirmation of body. It's like the body is included,
Mm-hmm.
but we also have a map of how to get back to that. So it's kind of like instead of climbing the ladder up and out, some of these traditions, they acknowledge that, but they also let us practice tools to climb the ladder back down and in.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that I see it is that if the body, my memories, my thoughts, my emotions, the wholeness of my being is not exactly as sacred. I mean, like exactly as sacred, exactly as divine as the stillness that holds that, then I'm something is dissonant in the
Yeah.
system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love this conversation because it's so echoing so much of what I speak to and have been really like chewing on for the last few years. But to me, it's almost like those Eastern thought traditions got brought into a Western lens, which is inherently dualistic because of the Enlightenment philosophy thinkers that brought us Cartesian logic, the dualism of mind body, the separation of, human from nature and mind over matter. And so we lost the parts of those traditions often, I think, that really are grounded in the body, because we often will cherry pick and or learn through our own lens, which of course we learn through our own lens. And that dissonance is really starting to become apparent to so many of us. I think that loss of connection, of the sacredness of the messy embodied being.
And to be fair, the body hasn't been treated so kindly in Eastern traditions either. So to be totally fair, this kind of patriarchy of spirituality is transnational, global, and historic. And it has many different fingers that go into many different religions, traditions, and lineages. There is a way that these sharing of traditions and the sharing of stories in our very interconnected, globalized world today has brought forth the, let's say, like the unique signature of conditioning that each one of us brings to the table. And I think in hearing each other's stories, East, West, North, and South, we have an opportunity to be like, hey, where did we buy into this collective belief? This, because yeah, it's true that some of the traditions that are the most radically female sex affirming in terms of like a divinity being put into the visual representation of a female sexed body, like, right?
Yeah.
That does occur more frequently in places like India. But even in places like India, there's an orthodoxy also that
Oh, yeah.
skews actually very rigidly
Yeah.
masculine. And so, yes, and I just want to say yes, and because I think sometimes we diminish the modern perspective in a certain way. And part of what I'm interested in doing is like, well, what is working in our modern times? Because when I'm looking around me in this spiritual marketplace, I'm seeing people from all over the world embodying their bodies and pulling from multiple threads to do that. And there's something so beautiful about that. There, and I don't know what it is. I think it's our ability to story share. It might be that
Right.
simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's and thank you for bringing that point forward. I'm again living in this Western place and delving into the history and where did we get some of these very broken thought patterns that we have that are harming so many of us. I'm focused there. I also have a degree in religious studies and I studied in India, so I'm like Hinduism was my major, so
Yeah.
I have that awareness and lens too. I think what I love about what you're saying here, or what you just shared, is that like spirituality and religion have always served purposes within community. And until very recently, community was very much localized. And so the stories that were told and the practices that made sense were like localized and land-based. Yes, they spread, but with a kind of adaptation over time of like, what did that space need? And because we are a global community in so many ways, like we just said, you're in Santa Barbara and I'm in Calgary, and we are not in the same environment or surroundings, and yet there's community here. And so that the beauty of being able to learn from disparate traditions and find what is supportive in today's world, and then this is really always the hard part, like being really cognizant of where appropriation might be happening. That's always the
Yeah.
tension for me as we walk it.
Yeah. 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 It's both and. It's both and. And also, the history of religion is in a large part the history of appropriation, right? Like these traditions come up with ideas Buddhism appropriated from Jainism, yoga appropriated from Buddhism. We're constantly synthesizing with each
Yeah.
other. Can we do that respectfully? Can we do that with curiosity, knowing that this is in some part inspiration, where it's like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I'm inspired by these yamas, these five truths, and this is going to become woven into the platform of my teaching. And
Mm-hmm.
that kind of a traveling or synthesizing effect. And I think that really hard conversations do need to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, to remember that these patterns go really far back, right?
Yeah.
So, like, there have been consequences to eradicating the goddess in the West and
Mm-hmm.
also in the East. And then there have been ways that she's come back as
Mm-hmm.
well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, the goddess traditions really deeply started to appear and come through as part of a countercultural movement, starting in the early medieval period. And
Mm-hmm.
I think we're kind of in a similar countercultural place and have been more recently. And there are ways that we're naturally gravitating. So I teach Tantra,
Yeah.
and especially the goddess traditions of Tantra. I don't teach Neo Tantra, which are the sexual practices that we see
Right.
out
Yeah.
there in the world. I teach classical Tantra, the sacred text is what I study.
Mm-hmm.
And two things I'll say about that. One is that most of these sacred texts aren't out there. They're just not out there. So even when we reach for a goddess like Kali, who's very popular right now,
Mm-hmm.
most of the texts of her tradition aren't translated, aren't even
Yeah.
accessible to scholars. They're starting to get there.
Yeah.
But I have one professor who has 20,000 texts on his computer that still need translating.
Right. Yeah.
And at the same time, now we've taken this whole concept, put it into a modern world, and used it for our own anxiety, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
our cultural anxiety has so much around sexual repression that when we
Mm-hmm.
take a tantric turn in our modern times, we're like, oh, what that means, we're going to go do
Mm-hmm.
partner work, and we're going to like work on our conditioning and work on like the pain around that.
Mm-hmm.
And on the one hand, that's perfectly in line with what Tantra has been, which is part of like a deep investigation into what's holding you back. What's your conditioning? What are your biases? What are you looking at that you're not comfortable looking at? And
Right.
like, go straight to it. Like, figure out what that is and look at it. But on the other hand, there has been a continuous exploitation of the female sexed body in the Neo Tantra world from where I
Yeah.
sit,
Yeah.
right? Like, I go on the internet and what do I see? Under the name of Tantra, I see women having like exploitative, am I
Yeah.
allowed to even say
Oh, you're
this?
allowed
Like,
to, you can swear,
orgasms
you can say
on,
whatever. Yeah.
yeah,
We are
like,
not clean.
yeah, okay. Yeah, no, because like, you get this image of the female having an orgasm on social
Yeah.
media, but what's really happening is somebody's trying to sell you a product.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like, hey, yes, we want to challenge our conditioning. Yes, we want to actualize. Yes, the body is included. Yes, I want to be like met in the fullness of who I am as
Mm-hmm.
a sexual embodied, like, also intelligent, also emotional, also intuitive or psychic human.
Mm-hmm.
And are we sure we want to do it in this way?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I don't think that that's in our best and highest good.
No, it feels often, and it's interesting because I agree with you. I think that there's so much empowerment in like embodying our sexuality and being the whole human self, because there's parts that we've repressed, but I think so often it falls into that pattern of, again, female sexual bodies being exploited for profit,
Right.
even if it's and often if it's women doing the exploiting, because
Yes.
we're within the patterning and we don't often
Which is the
see it,
patriarchy of
which is the
spirituality.
patriarchy. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I am separate from God. And the moment I am separate from God, and God is, a king,
Mm-hmm.
then I have to go crawling on my hands and knees to beg at the king's feet. And
Mm-hmm.
if the king approves of me, then he's going to give me something like nirodha, or salvation, or
Mm-hmm.
samadhi, or enlightenment.
Mm-hmm.
And where the original break hasn't even been challenged. Are we even broken in the first place, or did we just purchase into the concept?
Yeah. Yeah. It's such an interesting, as you were speaking, that like I am separate and I have to go crawling on my knees to ask for him to give me what I desire. The thing that landed in my head was how we have so many wisdom traditions to show a different way. I studied Celtic traditions. That's my
Mm,
lineage. That's where I'm called. And in Celtic traditions, historically, it was the king who had to beg the goddess, not beg, but he had to have her permission in order to rule. Otherwise, he didn't get to. If
yeah,
he
and to
wasn't
sow
good
and
and
reap the
just
fields.
to sow and reap the fields, it was their union
Hmm.
that allowed that, and so she had to bless that the kingship. He had to be a good and just and fair king, or there would be no abundance for the community. That it would be, barren. It would be a wasteland
Yeah.
if he tried to take what wasn't his. And so it's not even that long ago that we can find little threads of a different way of relating to what divinity might mean and the balance of it all.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I think that, you speak about the divine feminine. I'd love to go a little bit deeper there, because I know that, again, there's this sense for those of us in this sphere that there's like a rising of the feminine again.
Hmm.
And I know a lot of people might be like, oh, well, are we replacing one for the other? Or are we just like trying to call back? Matriarchy is a word that I'm seeing a lot lately. And it's
No
like that
way. Matriarchy is
redefinition.
patriarchy.
Well, except that it's not. Real matriarchy is not. Real matriarchy, it centers children
Yes.
and connection and community. Matriarchy is not a reversal of the patriarchy. It doesn't even
Right.
need women in leadership positions.
So we
It's a
have to get the
different
right
way of
language, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And we have to create awareness around the language. But coming back to the divine feminine, we could go on a whole tangent. Just like there's the, toxic masculinity and the wounded masculine, there's also wounded versions of feminine. And a lot of folks these days kind of leaning so hard into the feminine that they're losing the masculine. And again, like I think what's really important is coming back to balance. And
Hmm.
because we've skewed so far towards those masculine, patriarchal, again, wounded masculine energies, finding that balance. So and this isn't exactly a question, but can you speak a little bit to
I
the
love
divine
it.
feminine?
I love what you're saying, and I love the depth that you come from because you've studied these traditions very deeply. I don't think the patriarchy is a problem of men. I think the
No.
patriarchy has injured men and women almost equally.
Mm-hmm.
I would go so far as to say equally. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that those that have upheld and done damage within the patriarchal system have also equally been men and women.
Mm-hmm.
Now, has it also privileged certain men of a certain class? Yes, that too. So for me, the wounded feminine and the wounded masculine, they go hand in hand, and don't they
Mm-hmm.
have to?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, a wound is a wound. It's a fundamental schism or separation between me and divinity, the verb of divinity that is pouring forth from the heart. So the reclamation of the body, the ability to climb the ladder up and out into transcendence and down into form, it's like the same road that takes me to downtown Santa Barbara is the same road that brings me back home again, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the ability to travel that highway back and forth fluidly is extremely important. To me, that's what I hear when you say the word balance.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm.
so if the traditions and our modern trauma work together, both, if sacred tradition and modern trauma work and modern embodiment practices, if these clusters of wisdom teachings start coming together, then what we're doing is we're looking at the biases within ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Because what if your bias happens to be, I'm only going to be in my body, and I'm going to say, nothing about the ground of my being, and I'm just going to get caught up in the tornado and the whirlwind, and I have the right to do that, and that is my power to do that. Like that's where these biases start to go both ways. The transcendent ground of being, I take that to be not even a question. We are the infinite. We are the ground of being. And we're also embodiment. When we see that we're both, then the only path to sanity is through paradox. I'm both. Right? I'm both. And what has the goddess represented since the beginning of time? The ability to hold opposites. Inanna, when she's given powers, she's given the opposites. She's given the ability to express kindness and treachery, the ability to be the divine Godhead and the raising of empire, right? It's like our ability to hold opposites is a very deep teaching, a very powerful teaching. Our heart knows how to do that. We know how to hold opposites within ourselves. We know how to be insecure and confident at the same time. We know how to be small and big at the same time. We know how to be rigid and curious at the same time. That to me is the divine feminine. That's how I define the divine feminine. We could use all kinds of words, but for me, it's curiosity and the ability to hold opposites.
I love the simplicity of that and like the potency of it. And it makes so much sense as I listen to you speak, like the way that that's kind of landing in my body is really interesting to witness. I've often described myself in terms of opposites, and I feel like, I am both and we are both and that's the beauty and the mess of being here alive in a human body on this planet in this time, connected, and like there's a separation but it's not there, and just the mess of it all, I think, is what comes in. And that divine feminine energy of, I often come back into that space of generativity that feels to me embodied within the feminine, the generativity of life giving and life taking away. Totally. When we look at all the goddess traditions, either they're represented by different goddesses, or they're the same, that can bestow life and can take it away.
Yeah. Womb to tomb.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's the reason I wrote this book, the whole reason was because lo and behold, I found traditions that were mapping and naming this in a way that was clear, very clear to map. My favorite philosopher is a man named Utpaladeva. He lived in the 900s of the Common Era. And he really was not just a philosophical genius, he was also a devotee. And in one of his devotional texts, he says, let me be divided if the world is divided. Let me be dualistic. Just let me be devoted to that. Let me be in so much devotion that whatever comes. If there's an edge to my skin, there's an edge to my skin. If my skin dissolves into the unparticularized infinite body of being, let it be that. It's like, let me be both. Let me
Mm-hmm.
be whatever it is that is here, just as a devotee. Like, it's more powerful in his mind to be a devotee than to be a non-dualist.
Right.
Like, it's more because it's
Yeah.
almost like, I know, and it's cool and everything, like you go and disappear into God,
Mm-hmm.
but you know what I really want is to be a devotee where I get to have this pouring forth of the beauty of being without a preference for it being separate or not separate or transcendent or embodied or
Mm-hmm.
masculine or feminine, like, but it takes devotion to get there. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the consequences that has happened, no, okay, when I started writing my book, I'll put it this way. When I started writing my book, and I don't know if this was a statistical, update, but I was researching that 20% of Westerners were spiritual but not religious,
Mm-hmm.
identifying as spiritual but not religious, which is to say they had left a codified religion.
Yeah.
By the time we went to print, it was 25%. People are jumping ship real fast.
Yeah.
Now, that's interesting of itself. But what's the thing that we've thrown out with the bathwater?
Yeah.
We've thrown out devotion and faith because it's scary. Because our concept of faith and devotion is me crawling on my hands and knees to the king
Mm-hmm.
and begging for salvation. And I don't want that. I'm not interested in that contract.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to let it all disappear. I'm going to throw it all out.
Yeah.
And that's where I come in and really wonder, is that really what we want? Do we want to throw faith out with the bathwater?
Yeah.
Yes,
And
we want a challenge, right?
yeah. Yeah, I think sorry to jump in. I'm hearing a lot of conversations because I get to have these conversations with so many women on this podcast of the women who have, left the religion, found spirituality, and many of them have found themselves or found their way back into connection with parts of their original religion, whether that be God, but not maybe as the Father, but as something, or maybe it's with the essence of, Jesus and the Jesus kind of spirit that is, I mean, he was probably a real guy. There's a lot of evidence that he was, and that his teachings got misconstrued. But it's interesting how a lot of people who are maybe that next step, they threw out the religion, they found some sort of need for spirituality, and they find their way back to the pieces of a religion that devotion piece that you're saying, that they were like, oh yeah, that part was really good. It just got muddied up by a lot of other people's, political motivations over thousands of years often.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
Curiosity, because when our curiosity is shut down, which is the first and best tool of any empire, don't
Mm-hmm.
ask questions,
Mm-hmm.
do not challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you're going to ask questions from this pre-written list.
Mm-hmm.
Questions on this list are welcome. If it's not on this list, not only is it not welcome, but you are now risking being kicked out of the tribe,
Yeah.
or worse.
Yeah.
But certainly you're risking no longer being loved by the tribe. And as Hafiz says, isn't it true that everybody we meet, what we're really doing is asking, do you love me? Can you love me? So it's
Mm-hmm.
very scary, especially for a child, to be told, if you don't shut down your curiosity, if you don't rigid your curiosity,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't put it into only X, Y, and Z, then you're not going to be loved by your mother and your father, by your community, by your peers. Very
Mm-hmm.
scary. So we shut down our curiosity. And then when we start to call back our curiosity, because curiosity also dismantles the rigidity,
Yeah.
curiosity is an amplifier,
Mm-hmm.
curiosity is pulsation,
Mm-hmm.
then that that opens us up in extraordinary ways. It's kind of like I understand that there's religions out there. I love religion, actually. And at the same time, I think curiosity is the whole point of it all.
Yeah.
You know, isn't that what a practice is anyway? Isn't that what meditation is? Turn toward and notice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Notice what you notice.
Notice what you notice. And it's like it encapsulated in the, beginner's mind, which is something that is often brought to those new spaces of learning or older spaces of learning. It also breaks down barriers between people. Like, it feels really relevant today to be speaking to curiosity and like genuine, I often will say compassionate curiosity, because so often we're thrown into anxiety states or just like these high alert states of rage or fear or conflict with each other, with what's going on in the world politically. And I think that, my own partner and I have this conversation, and he gets very like, well, those people just shouldn't even be alive. And I'm like, okay, this is a little too black and white. And he's like, why don't they won't listen to facts? And I'm like, what if we just ask them some questions? Like, that's always, again, that curiosity and genuine, like, I want to know whether it's about myself, whether it's about another human, whether it's about, I don't know, the ladybugs in my garden and the earth and the way that she moves. I think that curiosity it's such a gentle and powerful tool back into connection.
Yeah, I mean, here we are protecting our hearts. That's what we're doing. And then somebody pings your heart in the wrong way and you want to go to war.
Yeah.
And it's really a trauma response. So what we're fighting against is one trauma response against another trauma response. And, how many proverbs are there that say, find peace in your own heart? And if you find peace in your own heart, you'll find peace in society. And so many traditions say this, that it's not even like, we should pay attention to this. I was like,
right. There's a lot of wisdom.
Yeah, like, is the out there really even what's up for you, or is it because you're being triggered yourself? Like, right? Like, where is it that you feel the pain? Where is it that you feel you haven't allowed yourself? Where is it that you feel like you have been made to get on your hands and knees and crawl to another authority? Or like, if I give you enough of my time, of my energy, of my money, of my knowledge, of my whatever, then will you love me? Like, will you give me something in return? And real agency, the Sanskrit word related to this is Aishwarya, which is sovereignty. Real sovereignty that has to do with the heart is reclaiming that from its origin. Like, we can rewrite our contracts. I just rewrote a bunch energetic contracts last week. Like, I don't know what's up with right now, but like, it's a potent time. And I finally had this realization, like, wait, hold on a second. I've been showing up in this space for 20 years doing X, Y, and Z, thinking I wasn't expecting something in return. But guess what? I was expecting something in return. I was expecting, and I was talking to my sister about it just this morning. She shows up and she's a mom, and she's like, she gets enraged when her kids don't eat her food. Like, I know this is so simple, but and I'm like, well, yeah, because you created a contract where you said, I'm going to give you all this love, but in exchange, you're going to eat it.
My food.
Very Jewish conditioning in our family. And, and we really talked about that. We were like, where do you think that comes from? It comes from ancestry. It really does. Ancestry, the collective, the whatever it is, but it comes from these places, and we just pick up the contract. And we don't even know we're picking it up.
Don't even know we have it.
No, we don't
let alone how to question it.
We're just like, why am I so mad at my kid for not eating the pancakes?
Yeah.
Right? It's like, we don't even question it. And then we go and we joke about it. Oh, that's okay. But no, it's not okay. It's not okay. It's not okay if it's disrupting the resonance of the instrument of your heart. You picked up a contract. What does the contract say? I call this bargaining the heart. What are the ways that we've given away our heart from the beginning? And the easiest way to see that we've done it is to do what I call finishing the sentence, which is like, okay, I will be happy when. This is the invisible sentence. I will be happy when I lose weight. I will be happy when my kid gets into the college that I think they deserve to get into. I will be happy when I'm enlightened. I will be happy when there's peace on earth, when there's no more tyranny. I will be happy when. I could be happier now, except that I had that narcissistic relationship and it ruined my life. I could be happy now. So we make bargains, we make contracts all over the place.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We don't even know we've done it because we don't hear the full sentence in our head. All we hear is I should. You should. You should eat the meal. I should become more peaceful. I should become enlightened. That's what we hear. It's a clipped sentence. The full sentence is I would be happy if.
Yeah.
That lets us see our contracts. Once we see our contracts, then we can make a real choice. You know,
Right,
do I want to keep
to
it?
decide to keep it or to rewrite it?
Yeah, because
Carry
like maybe
something
you want
different
to keep
forward.
it for a little while. Maybe it's helping
Yeah.
you in some way, right? Like
Yeah.
maybe wishing for enlightenment is keeping you on track to like do a practice that's heart affirming. I don't know. Like
Yeah.
but at least you have the agency to figure out whether you want to keep it or not.
Yeah, it's that awareness, right? That piece of like we cannot choose or change what we don't know exists, what we're not aware of existing.
Right.
It's really interesting. And this kind of the layers deep that we can go to, where it's like recently I thought that I had, sorted out a particular contract and pattern and behavior. And then, as always happens, my very wise mentor said to me yesterday, she's like, anytime we're teaching a program again or launching it into the world again, yes, we've embodied that wisdom, but like it's going to do its alchemy and we're going to be confronted with where those patterns maybe still exist or the next layer deeper is. And it's just been like a bit of a ride.
Oh my God.
last 2
Oh my
weeks.
goddess. I mean, listen,
Yes.
I'm dealing with a very powerful deity that has been visiting me for 20 years. And when I wrote this book, I thought, okay, this is good. Like I've been alchemizing, I've been transmuting. The second this thing came out, I'm telling you, whew, the layers of like, but did you really do the work? But did you really see this little side of it? But did you really follow that little spiral in? And it's like,
Right.
because when we're talking about this particular material, we're dealing with a level of having to revisit the doorways over and over again. And the second you think that you've gone through the pattern and like, thank God I got through that pattern.
Oh, wait, it's deeper
What?
and bigger and harder than I thought it was.
Therein lies the patriarchy of spirituality. There's a line in the sand. Once I cross that imaginary line, I will be peaceful forever. I will have reached salvation. See, this is the other side of the contract. I will have
Right.
reached salvation. I will no longer be challenged. I can go be like a wise man sitting on a mountain in India in a diaper. Like we carry that image in our heads.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
And it's
for
like,
sure.
who put that image in your head? Like, I'm a very chatty female. When did I get like Ramana Maharshi as my spiritual goal in my head? Like, really? Am I gonna go be a dude on a mountain? No, like I'm not.
No.
I'm not any of that.
Yeah.
Right? But we get it in our heads that that's the line in the sand, and if only we can achieve that. And then you open up a whole can of worms and spiritual bypassing and all of that because all of a sudden the goal is more interesting than the process.
Yeah. And isn't it always? My mom, when I was a kid and I was having a hard time, she always used to say, enjoy the journey, live for the moment. And hated it. And the older I get, the more I return to it. It's what we have, right? It's the process. That's where life happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Life is unfolding, pouring forth.
Yeah.
As a verb.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, we could talk for hours about all of this. I've really been enjoying this conversation. I feel like you've brought a depth to some pieces that I hadn't thought about before, and I really appreciate that. And I'm sure that the listeners are as well. I'm definitely going to buy your book. For the listeners, I'd love for you to share a little bit more about the book, where they can find it, give us the whole name, all of those details.
Thank you. Yeah, I love that this topic is happening right now. The book is called Embodying the Goddess: How to Awaken Curiosity and Reverence on the Spiritual Path. Right? Curiosity and reverence being what I think of as her, capital H. And you can find it anywhere that a book is sold. It's it's widely available, and I'm always a fan of maybe even creating a little book club or book community around it, because especially when we're talking about storytelling and curiosity dismantling our conditioning, it's good to do that in community. I think that that's what's coming through that hasn't come through so explicitly as it's coming through right now. So there it is. And you can find me anywhere that I've used that name, Embodying the Goddess. I'm on YouTube, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Substack.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. And all the links will be below in the show notes. And if you've been with me for a while, listeners, you'll know I'd encourage you to order that book into your local bookstore instead of patronizing the big A Amazon, if possible.
Do you know how many mental gymnastics and verbal gymnastics I have to go through to not use that? I'm like, and then also, do you know what's really crazy, Eileen? Like, at the same time, because they sell so many books and leaving reviews is such a big deal, I'm also like, okay, and if you're going to do that, then at least leave, like
at least leave a review.
Leave a review, please.
Let's do some sort of energetic exchange here. It's so hard. I know it's
energetic exchange. Exactly. Yeah. Thanks for saying that.
You're welcome. Yeah. It's always a topic it swirls for me. It's like how and when is it appropriate? Anyways, that's another podcast episode. Is there anything that you'd like to say to leave the listeners with before we wrap up today?
Just that the whole path is notice what you notice. And when we really make it a habit to notice what we notice, the avenues for reverence, the heart is an instrument. That's what opens up for us. And that's my prayer. That's my wish. That's my intention. Not to keep buying into this idea that somewhere in there I became unwhole, but to really challenge it at its source. I think that's my prayer. Yeah.
Beautiful. I love that. It's the simplicity of it too that's so resonant, I know, for me and the listeners. Like, notice what you notice.
Notice what you notice.
How simple is that?
Honestly, that's really the whole teaching. Like, you can read my book or not. Like, notice what you notice.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. Yeah. Thank you so much for being my guest today. This has been a real pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. And for our listeners, Cynthia's links will all be below in the show notes. Definitely seek her out, imbibe her wisdom, and connect to your own. As always, if you like this episode, please leave a rating, a review, subscribe, depending on whatever platform you're watching or listening to us on. And I will be back here same time again next week. Bye for now.